We wrap up our senatorial candidate interviews tomorrow on the link, and we have today the Democrat senatorial candidate Chris Carillo and Republican candidate, former Senator Tony Ada. Thanks for joining us, guys. Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Bree. Morning, Chris.
Morning, Senator.
Tony. Morning, Chris. Morning, Bree.
Good morning.
And we are going to give you guys the rules of engagement.
You have 1 minute for an opening statement. Then we're going to ask you some questions, and you have 2 minutes each to respond. And then you have 2 minutes to close and give your final pitch.
There you go. So we'll start at the beginning with the 1 minute open, and we'll go ahead and start with former Senator, Republican candidate for Senator, Tony Ada.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Guam. Thank you to KUAM, Chris and Chris and Bree. Thank you for having us here today. To Chris Carillo, thank you for joining on also. I'm Tony Ada. I come from the village of Sinahanya. I've been married to my wife and Ned for 35 years. I have 4 children, Donnie, Boo, Ali, and Amaya. And, we've been making home. Guam is our home, and it will always be our home. And my platform, we look to build a resilient and diverse economy, keeping our people and our communities safe, and also streamlining government. And all this we can do together. And, be that Chris and myself are fortunate to get elected into the 36th Guam Legislature, I look forward to working with everyone to ensure that these things happen and that our island continues to grow and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Carillo, Democrat candidate for Senator. 1 minute opening statement starts now.
Well, first of all, good morning to everyone. Thank you, Jason, Chris, and Sabrina for hosting this forum. And Tony, thank you for doing it with me. My name is Chris. I'm a small business owner. I'm a dad. And now I'm a teacher too, all of a sudden. It's my son is at home doing distance learning with me, and when I can't make it to the office, I've been trying to figure out the digital realm. And I really want to say thank you to the teachers and the frontliners who are out there doing these things and reimagining their jobs. I have a plan to create affordable healthcare in the small business community by providing some subsidies and getting businesses like the ones that my wife owns and Tony owns, and have them procure health insurance with big businesses. This will increase the risk pool, therefore lowering the premiums and improving the services. I also want to make sure that we
thank you. Time's up, Chris.
1 minute is up.
Yeah. Don't worry, you get 2 on the questions.
Right.
And Sabrina has our first question. Bree?
All right. Well, aside from a myriad of other issues, the coronavirus pandemic exposes the need for the government of Guam to be more accessible, right, in terms of using more technology to be able to conduct business electronically. Just saying you have a website or a Facebook page, it really does not cut it. Our employees are teleworking. What will you do if you are elected to serve in the 36th Guam Legislature to improve e-government? And we'll start with you, Chris.
Well, I was just getting into that in my opening. Well, thank you for that question, Sabrina. Well, the last time I was on, I spoke with you guys about a trip I recently took, and I had gone to Hawaii, and fortunately, Tony had helped me when my father passed, and he helped me with my funeral arrangements and things. I went home, and I noticed that in Hawaii, one thing that they did was they have kiosks at supermarkets and in front of their DMV where there's no physical contact between the government employee and let's say a resident who wanted to renew their driver's license or renew their car registration, or if they wanted to get a copy of their birth certificate. These are all services that can be provided online. I also want to make sure that those employees that are working there in the front line are put to a place where they can be of more use. Like in the back at revenue tax, so we can effectively capture the revenue that we haven't been capturing for years and years. I also think that we need to do 100% digital screening at our ports and airports to ensure that we interdict the drugs that are coming into our island. It's really a problem, and they have X-ray technology now that can scan whole containers and look inside of each box and see as small as a keychain and identify what's in those boxes. That'll do two things. Number one, it'll stop the flow of illegal drugs coming in through through the port and the airport. Number two, it'll also allow us to effectively capture the use tax that should be collected for goods and services that are brought to Guam, and are not for resale. So these are a few steps we can take to improve technology to make sure that government is working for us and not against us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Senator Ada?
Yeah, thank you, Bree. These past 7 months has been really a learning curve for everyone. But I think our government has started already on building a platform and building a foundation on e-government. What we need to do is just to continue building upon that foundation to ensure that we'll be able to get forms online, renewals online, everything from business license to, like Chris said, driver's license, everything that we can do in person, we should be able to do online. And that's what I was talking about in streamlining government. It's already being done throughout governments throughout the United States. We can do it here as well. We just need to work together to ensure that all the issues that we've seen throughout the months are worked out, the kinks are worked out, whatever that we need to pass in legislation to ensure that the government can collect revenues. And for example, even when people order online with Amazon and Walmart and stores that are online, how do we collect those revenues? How do we capture those revenues that are escaping? So all these things together, working with the partners at DMV, Revenue Tax, and all the other agencies will ensure that our government will be able to can transition from an in-person to online and moving forward into the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, next question. What letter grade, A through F, would you give the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, and why? And we'll go ahead and start with you, Democrat candidate Chris Carillo. 2 minutes to answer, starting now.
Well, I would like to see it. There's two different segments of what happened here. The initial part of the pandemic, I thought they did really well. But I think overall, if we look at it and we take it into account that it's a pandemic that no one has ever seen, we've never survived anything like this before. So it's been very difficult. I hear a lot of people asking for a plan, but it's hard to plan to fight an invisible enemy. So I like to give them a C. And I think one of the reasons I give them a C is because I feel like one of the things they haven't done was repeatedly push to make sure that we're following the 3 W's: wash your hands, wear a mask, and socially distance, right? We need to make sure that the messaging has been clear and concise. And I think that the public health side, they've done a great job, but it's more about, right? Think about it this way. Trust is a two-way street. So if the governor wants the community to trust her, the governor needs to be more forthcoming with her messaging. And, frankly, I think she has been, but we also could have been a little more forthcoming. Kmart could have said right away that they were the one that had the outbreak. So we need to have the community trust the government so that we can trust them to take the right steps. So I'd say they earned about a C, but I really think it could have been a whole lot worse than it actually has been. So I think the administration's done a good job. We just need to do a little bit better and get buy-in from the community so we can get our businesses open. At the end of the day, we all want to go back to work. Everyone wants to go back and have dinner. We all want to do things that we used to do prior to the pandemic, and we're not going to get there with the community division that we have right now. So I'll give them a C.
Thank you, Chris. Tony, 2 minutes to respond, starting now.
Yeah, I think, in the onset, I don't think we can really give them a letter grade because we were all in it together. None of us knew exactly what was going on. We didn't know what kind of virus this was going to be. We didn't know what the effects and the outcome would be if the person gets ill. And now we do know. We do know what's going on. We do know how to kind of not prevent it, but to stay more healthy. And I think that communication was the biggest issue that the government had with the public. Communication and transparency. I think on the onset, had they been honest with the community of what's going on and how do we can transition from this pandemic back to slowly opening up our economy, was really key as to why they failed in moving forward, is because they kept going back on their word. They kept going back on their side of what was going on. They couldn't make up their mind. They had a panel of advisors that was advising them one thing, and then we don't know where the other advisors coming from that the governor came out and went against the advisory council. So I think communication is the biggest thing that they need to work on to ensure that it gets out to our community, and in response, our community can respond appropriately. We can turn around and ensure that the precautions that we need to take will be taken. I mean, I go through it almost every day, having public health come by our place and watching us every single day, but yet we don't see them at the other places that crowds are greater, right? So I think we need to see some type of balance in ensuring that our community is safe in all sectors, in all.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator.
Guam currently doesn't have a local unemployment insurance program. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program expires in December. We don't know if Congress is going to pass another stimulus package for the territory. What are your plans to help if we don't get any other federal assistance funding? The unemployed, and we're looking at right now 35,000. It could be more by the time we get to December. Do you support legislation for a local unemployment insurance program? If not, what are your plans? And we'll start with you, Senator Ada.
So, today there is nothing that prevents the current legislature from addressing these issues. The current legislature is the majority. The Democrats have the majority. The administration is a Democrat controlled. Congress is controlled by the Democrats as well. So is the mayor's council. So, there's nothing that prevents them from doing this today. But in the future, what we need to do is to rebuild our economy. Because we can talk about unemployment insurance all we want, but if we don't have the businesses open to provide such type of wages and collection of revenue and taxes for our government, then I don't think we can even speak about unemployment insurance, because then the burden of the unemployment insurance is going to fall on what businesses that we do have left that's trying to sustain. So I think we need to really look at focusing on rebuilding our economy and reopening all the businesses that we can. And then we can talk about what is it that we can do, because the platform is already there for the uninsurance. The DOL is already going through it. They have the program, they have the platform. So let's get together and find out what is it that we can do. But we can't tax our local businesses again coming out of this pandemic. So what is it that we can do collectively with the government and the private sector?
Chris?
Well, certainly I have a different opinion for him. The government, the workers that work at these businesses need to be taken care of. There's 6,000 employees in Tumon that are relatively jobless. So do we need to create an unemployment program? Yes. And all over the country, in fact, there are unemployment programs. So something needs to be put into place, and I hope they don't wait until January for some new legislature to put it in. I really think that the legislature has a few bills going around, and hopefully before the end of the session, they will take care of it. But truthfully, if businesses are closed down and not making money, then they're not paying taxes either. So the idea that we need to give them a tax break, I mean, yes, it's difficult. It's a difficult position. I'm an owner. I own 3 businesses. I know what it's like to not have money coming in and to have to pay my rent and to have to try and pay my employees. It's been difficult, but if businesses plan correctly and they put some money on the side like we did, we never missed a payday. Until the second round, we missed some paydays, but the first round, the first 12 weeks, we never missed a payday. So can it be done? Yes. Should the private sector workers have unemployment insurance if they lose a job through no fault of their own? Absolutely. It's not just, it's the responsible thing to do. And the Republicans and, the business owners, we need to come together and coalesce around the idea that the only way our business grows is if we foster growth through investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next question. What letter grade A through F would you give the 35th Guam Legislature for its performance during the pandemic? And we'll go ahead and let's keep it with Chris. Chris, you got 2 minutes to respond starting now.
Okay, well, during the pandemic, it's hard. I think that a lot of people think that the legislature can go in there and snap their fingers and do things. The CARES Act funding, the legislature has no control over. It's the governor's prerogative how she wants to spend that. And as far as closing down the government or opening up the government, I mean, really, the Chapter 10 GCA, where the governor's emergency powers lie, they already give pretty much certain authority to the governor to lead us through a pandemic. Now, this is an extended pandemic. Just think, this is a hurricane every day, a typhoon every day for the last 7 months. So the legislature hasn't had a large role to play because they don't have a large role to play in the overall day-to-day operation of the government. The legislature is a prospective body that looks towards the future to see how they can make Guam a better place. So I wouldn't give them a letter grade of F or A. I'd say they're probably somewhere in the C. I think that the legislature, they could have done a better job with their communications in their offices, making sure that people were on social media saying, wear a mask, stay at home, trying to quell the political divide. I mean, we have a president in Washington who's saying all the time, masks are not necessary, go out and let's open up everything. And then he got coronavirus, and then 30 people in the White House got coronavirus. So it's hard to tell our residents to stay home when the president of the United States is walking around and having rallies in the middle of this. So it's a really difficult position, but the legislature is just not a day-to-day operator of the government. The legislature is the prospective arm of the government, making sure that we do things right in the future and to examine what has been done in the past.
Thank
they
you.
don't make decisions that
Thank you,
affect
Chris.
the government day-to-day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Former Senator Ada, you have 2 minutes to respond starting now.
Yeah, I think that the legislature has failed the people. They could have. Absolutely, they're the third branch of government. Judiciary was still working, administration was still working. The legislature could have still gone to work. It takes, and just like they're doing virtual sessions and virtual public hearings and things like that, they could have continued to do it from the very onset. What people needed during the onset of this virus, this pandemic, was leadership. And this was the opportunity and the time for the legislature to show that leadership, to show our people that they are listening, that they are watching what's going on, that they are going to be able to go forward and say, you know what, these are the issues that face our people. So how can we work with the administration if we need to amend laws that are currently in place, that the governor cannot do transfers or whatever it may be because of a law that's in place, then the legislature could have came in and amended that law or repealed that law. It's about working together with the legislative branch and the administration, and they failed to do that. What they did was they did stay home, and they were nowhere to be found. They weren't accounted for. So I think in the future, what needs to be accounted for is the senators and the governor, the lieutenant governor, and Congress as well. They all need to get together to formulate a plan that should we come into a pandemic in the future, how is it that we can work together, that people's voices are being heard and the administration can act. And if anything that needs to go to our federal partners, that Congress will be, the congressional delegate would be able to bring forward those issues to DC.
Thank you. We just saw over 100 members of the business community participate in a community rally, a motorcade from GPO to Adeloop, and then over to the Guam Legislature. You know, sending a message that we need help, we need support. If elected, what are your plans specifically, if you could share with us, on helping the economy rebuild? We'll start with you, Chris.
Well, one of the things that I want to do is to invest in new industries. I want to bring in companies like Google, YouTube, Amazon, Alibaba, and use some of our government land that's unusable and provide low-cost leases so that they can provide high-paying quality jobs. I think that we need to rethink how we're going to what we're going to do going forward. We have three legs to our economy, right? We have the tourism leg, we have the military spending, and we have the government spending. And cutting off any of those legs is pretty detrimental. So first of all, we cut away the first leg, which is tourism, which is our economic driver. So what's happened in the interim is the government and the military, they picked up their spending. $8.6 billion a year over the next 10 years are going to be spent by the military to ensure that the buildup is done. So we need to capture that revenue, make sure that we have plans in place to effectively collect the use taxes for all the materials that they'll bring in from off island so we can get paid on those. And then we need to look to diversify, set up data server farms for big companies like YouTube so that they can provide better services to Asia and its billion consumers over there. And then we can set up fulfillment centers where Amazon can set up a fulfillment center so that they can get their orders out 2 days to Asia instead of waiting, 2 weeks the way they have to wait now. So there's different industries we can look at. We also need to expand our agriculture and aquaculture. We could do exports of seafood like shrimp, lobster, crab, and we can, grow food at home. Right now, we bring in about 90% of the food. I think we might be better off bringing in, 40, 50, 60%. That'll create jobs and it'll give everybody safer produce. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next question.
Oh, wait, Senator.
Oh, Senator Ada?
Ada.
Sorry, Senator.
Yeah,
My bad, Senator. Go ahead. You have 2 minutes to respond starting now.
No problem. We need to revisit the BPT and reduce that back to 4%. Over the past couple of years, you've seen that the government has, the surplus. They didn't call it surplus; they called it excess revenues. 35 million, 27 million. Let's give the businesses a fighting chance to survive. Those that are currently still in operation and those that have closed, an opportunity to reopen. We can also look at ensuring that. Let's look at the fees for business licensing and either reduce it or eliminate it for the first year so that people can start to open businesses and generate revenue for the government. The other issue would be what grants that are available for our farming industry that we haven't taken advantage of. And I know there's a lot of farming grants that are out there that our local farmers have not been able to take advantage of, probably because Department of Agriculture hasn't seen anything that's come down the pipeline. But I think we can go with farming and, like Chris said, agriculture and aquaculture. Let's start doing what we can within so that we can start building, and then we can be reliant and resilient upon ourselves instead of always relying upon the outside world. I mean, it's going to take a long time, but I'm sure we can do it. We've done it these past several months, relying on each other, and I'm pretty sure we can do it in the future, relying on each other as well.
Thank you, Senator. Next question. Donald Trump and Mike Pence, or Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and why? And we'll go ahead and start with you, former Senator. Tony Ada, you have 2 minutes to respond starting now.
Well, we could do where I'm going for Trump and Pence. When you look at what President Trump has done within the past 4 years, he's built our economy to astronomical numbers in jobs, in revenue, bringing back companies that have left the United States, gone to Mexico, gone to China, coming back to the United States, rebuilding the automobile industry. It's only when the pandemic came that unemployment, unfortunately, and rised, and jobs weren't there, and the gross domestic product was starting to fall. But other than that, what he accomplished in 4 years, Biden hasn't been able to accomplish in the 40 years that he's been in Congress and as vice president when he was with President Obama. So, of course, it's going to be Trump and Pence come 2020, and I look forward to working with him in D.C. in the next 4 years.
Thank you, Senator. Chris, 2 minutes.
Well, I'm glad that Tony takes responsibility for President Trump because he's been a disaster for our country. Our country has never been more divided than it is now. They talk about the Second Amendment. They're going to come for your guns. Guess what? The Democrats can't come for your guns. It takes 2/3 of the House and Senate to come for your guns, and 2/3 of the population has guns. The Democrats don't want to take your gun. The Democrats want reasonable background checks. So it's definitely going to be Biden and Harris. Trump's economic plan is good for the rich, the 1%. The Trump tax cuts affected the top 85%. What did we have to do, Tony? My good friend here had to park his hearse outside of the legislature so we could raise the BPT because of Trump's tax cuts. So you know how negatively that affected our island. And frankly, reducing the BPT for Guam only is a $10,000 hit for a company that makes $1 million in sales. That's the difference between that's what they want to stop. It's $10,000 if you make $1 million of sales. The legislature already cut the tax by 40% for businesses that make less than $500,000. And the last BPT increase was in 2004, and then everyone got voted out. And then now, because the Republic, and now we're 100 police officers short. We're 100 customs officers short. We're 100 DOC officers short. We're radically unfunding our Department of Education. So I just don't see the value in cutting the BPT because that'll lead to the layoff of 2,500 more employees from the government of Guam, and we're going to add that to our unemployment rolls. Biden and Harris have a plan to spend money on green energy to make sure that places like Guam aren't forgotten. And I really think that the Democrats are the way to go in the national election and in the local election.
Thank you, Chris. Time's up.
Thank you.
You both have brought up BPT. What about this minimum wage hike that is scheduled to go into effect in March of next year? If the economy is still the way it is now.
I felt like you were going to cuss there.
I almost was. But would you support repealing or even delaying the implementation of the minimum wage hike to help these businesses? And we'll start with you, Chris.
Who, me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Chris.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, this minimum wage hike was planned for. We passed this already early in 2019. So businesses knew it was coming up. Yes, it's probably a difficult time to still implement the tax. And I'm sure that we'll have discussions about whether or not to pause it or not. But going forward, the minimum wage is not what we're worried about. We need to grow the middle class. The middle class has disappeared from Guam. We get 55,000 people on food stamps. Why is that? Are they staying home? No, those people are working poor. They aren't being paid the wages that they would get paid anywhere else, which is why there's a mass exodus of people leaving Guam, taking our best and brightest away from us. So we need to look at the government and see how we can subsidize businesses so that they can pay their employees more. I mean, I really feel like if we work together and stop saying, oh, we got to kill the BPT, or we got to do this, or we got to, no, we cannot The fighting, the Republicans and the chamber and the Democrats need to stop fighting. We need to coalesce around the idea that we need to build the middle class. That's the most important thing. Should everyone make money? Absolutely. In Hawaii, they make $24 an hour on average. On Guam, it's $12.75. You tell me why there's a $12 an hour difference in pay for two different locations that both have to abide by the Jones Act. It's you put more money out, the more money there is for all the businesses to make. That's how sort of circular economy is. The more money that's in the economy, the more the businesses will make, the more everyone will make. So we need to find a way to get the business community and the government to work together instead of fighting, trying to get the lowest taxes. Maybe you gotta pay $10,000 more if you make $1 million. That's okay, because that's not gonna kill your business. I don't know how that will kill your business, because if you survive even $10,000,
thank you, Chris. Time's up. Former Senator Ada, 2 minutes starts now.
I think we do need to build the middle class. We do need to put people back to work and continue to have them grow. If come January, when the next increase comes, I think that's something that just has to move forward. It was already passed in law. It needs to move forward, and we need to revisit anything else after that. Give the businesses time to recover, give them time to rebuild. And I'm sure that once they rebuild and once they recover, just like in the past, the business community didn't come out in full opposition of the minimum wage. What they did come out was the one-time, I think it was $1, right, Chris, where they wanted a $1 increase immediately, then the next dollar. And I think when they came out incrementally, 25 cents, 30 cents, or what it was, and it was accepting. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to think about how we can do these things by incremental stages instead of one impact of trying to just get everything at one time. We need to ensure that if we're going to build our business community, we need to build them up so that they can support the employees, so that they can support, the employees can support their families. And working together with Chris in the legislature, we're given that opportunity. We can ensure that we move forward, and we can make sure that our business community, we're both small business owners. And I'm sure that we're gonna not just look out for, the businesses, but also for the employees that we want to employ and that are, want to go back to work. Because a lot of people want to go back to work to support their families.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next question here. What do you think the 35th Guam Legislature's biggest win and loss was? And we'll go ahead and start with you, Chris. 2 minutes to respond. Again, what do you think the 35th Guam Legislature's biggest win and loss was? Starting now.
Well, thanks for that question. I believe that the biggest win was probably standing up the marijuana industry. I think that can do a lot of good for Guam. Because it's a new industry, right? It's something that's in the black market. It's in the shadows. We can actually collect tax revenue and grow our economy, create new jobs. I think the biggest loss that we had, or the biggest loss they took, was I feel like this last year's budget. It was really, man. It's just so uncertain. And until we get a handle on how everything's going to shake out, until we know how this virus is going to progress, it's going to be really hard to do the budget. So, I applaud them for their trying, but it was a really difficult budget, but it was also very tenuous. And, I think also the 40% reduction in the BPT for businesses up to 500,000, that's a big win. And I'm happy that the legislature provided that to small businesses. So, there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Tony, again, the question, what do you think the 35th Guam Legislature's biggest win and loss was in this term? 2 minutes starts now.
I think the biggest win for the Guam legislature was overriding the governor's veto on the budget. I think that they showed leadership then, and that they showed separation of powers from the legislature and the administration. They held the administration to live within the means of the budget that the legislature had passed, when the governor came back and tried to push another budget onto them, they stood their ground and said, no, this is what we passed as a body, and this is what you're going to have to work with. And that was the biggest win for the legislature. The biggest, I think, the loss, and Chris brought it up, was the Dave Santos Act, where they reduced the tax on that. They put a sunset provision also. I think what they should have done is just let it ride out and forget about the sunset provision and let that continue. If the sunset provision comes up, hopefully that someone would take the lead and say, you know what, okay, let's remove the sunset provision or revisit it completely, depending what our situation is come January. You know, what our revenue collections would be, what our projections would be for the upcoming for FY 2022. All these things got to be taken into account because we're not going to be able to spend the way we used to in 2019 and 2020 and 2018. We're going to need to be more conservative. We're really going to need to tighten the belt. And Chris was right. You know, we need to work together with the administration, with the legislature, with the business community, all coming together to ensure that what goes forward, it's going to be workable for everyone. And that's what I look at for the legislature this past term.
Thank you, Tony. Bree?
Real simple. Why should we trust you? Why should the people of Guam trust you? Senator Ada.
You know, for the past, for my entire life, you know, I've worked on my integrity, my credibility. It's been something that is very important. You know, once you lose trust with the community, once you lose trust with the public, then it's very hard to regain that trust. And working on my integrity and my credibility, it took me a lifetime. And I'm not going to do anything for anyone to lose that in seconds. And the public can trust me because I've always been there. I'm an experienced leader. I've shown I've held nothing back. I've always been out there in the community, both in office and out of office. I serve my country. So, you know, integrity and credibility is important to me. And that's one thing that I will not compromise. And it will always be top and foremost.
Thank you, Senator Ada. Chris?
Well, that's a good question. Why should you trust me? Well, I don't need to be a senator. I'm doing this because I want to help. I think that I have the expertise in finance. I have a good background in policy. And number one, the best thing that I'll bring to the table is the ability to coalesce around ideas that are the best. Whether it's Senator Ada or Senator Terlahi, I will always be able to find the best way to move forward. I'm a people that is a consensus builder. I'm a person that builds consensus. I helped Guam Auto Spot build its finance department up from the ground up. I've helped Micronesia Renewable Energy put hundreds of solar systems on islands, trying to get renewable energy to be a real industry on Guam. And I work for BJ Cruz. If you guys haven't been around BJ Cruz and understand what kind of integrity that man has, and Tony has been in meetings with me on numerous occasions, and BJ will always tell you that you have to hold everyone accountable. Your best friend, you hold them more accountable than you hold your worst enemy. So I'm a person I stick to my word, and I do what I say I'm gonna do. And I think that just my background and my expertise and my ability to cooperate with people is going to be a big plus for the legislature should I get elected in the 36th.
Thank you, Chris. Next question. If elected, what would you do to improve the legislature's role as a check and balance on the other branches of government? 2 minutes starting now. Former Senator Tony Ada.
What we need to do is to ensure that to increase checks and balances, to hold more oversight hearings on the different departments and agencies. We need to ensure that what they're asking for is truly what they need. And that's going forward in any budget. Previously in the past, the way we held budget hearings was that every agency and department came before the legislature with their needs. And over the years, that has really stopped to where now it's just a one lump sum government budget for the administration, and it parcels out to different education and things like that. We need to go back to the way we were doing it in the past, and looking at each agency individually. Came down, it was each school that came down individually, so that we can get a better grasp on what we need for the budget as we move forward. I think that the checks and balances will always come with transparency, working in transparency and accountability with the government, with the administration, to just be straightforward and honest with us. That's all they need to do, is to be straightforward, good or bad. Because if we're going to be in this together, let's be in it for the good times. Let's be in it together for the bad times. But that's what we need to do, is bring accountability and transparency first and up front.
Thank you, Tony. Chris, 2 minutes starts now.
Well, I really agree with Tony, right? Trust is a two-way street. The government has to be honest with the people so that the people can trust the government. And as long as we do that, we'll be fine. As a senator, if I have a committee and I see something that's looking nefarious or out of, not looking like it's on the up and up, I'll certainly call an oversight hearing. I don't have a problem calling an oversight hearing on even my friends, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is make them do their job better, right? We're not here to say, man, you're a bad director, let's fire you. No. What resources can we do to make sure that you're doing things the right way? A lot of times there's a lot of finger pointing and a lot of things going on in the media and social media, and really at the end of the day, that's how government is, right? Government is different from running a business. So we need to figure out the best way that we can provide the resources to our businesses, to our agencies, to make sure they can meet their mandates. And if they're not meeting their mandates for any reason, we need to call them on it. And if they're doing something nefarious, oversight hearings need to be held. And as long as everyone is on the up and up, that we can get better as a government and we can provide better services to our residents. Thanks.
Thank you. I really feel for the people, the staff that work at the Guam Memorial Hospital. We had Dr. Jolene Uggan on our show weeks back, and she described what it's like to work there. And, despite the conditions with the roofs leaking and things like that, they still go in there every single day and work. Hospitalizations are at an all-time high. They need nurses. They need doctors. What are some of the ideas that you have to help GMH with everything that's going on? I will start with you, Chris.
It's a very complicated issue, right? I think we as a community have to get together and start staying home so that less and less patients can be going into GMH, because we all for them. I know nurses, I know administrators that are terrified going to work because they don't want to get COVID and take it home to their families. So we need to provide adequate PPEs, make sure that they're fully stocked with their PPEs, make sure that we're never running behind. We need to, pay them their hazard pay if we can. We need to do whatever we can to thank our frontliners, because this is an unprecedented event. I cannot stress enough how it's just divided our community. It's divided our island. My kid doesn't even want to leave the house because he's scared of getting COVID. We need to do more as a government, but first of all, it starts with protecting them, making sure that they have PPEs. And then everyone at home, we all have to do our part. Wear a mask, wash your hands. Don't go to Pari's house and eat dinner. Don't go to your mother. I know you want to. We all want to see our friends and our family. We miss everyone. I miss Tony. I haven't seen Tony in months. Tony and I are friends. We talk all the time, but it's just not something we can do right now. So everyone needs to do it together so that we can protect the frontliners as they protected us, especially in the early stages of this pandemic. So I propose that we make sure that they have enough PPEs and we all do our part. And then whatever financial incentives we can pay to these frontliners, we need to give them the incentive pay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Senator Ada?
Yeah, we need to give GMH what we committed to them. And the legislature passed a bill that became public law that gave them $10 million that they still have yet to see. We need to ensure that the PP, thank the CNMI and Palau government for both contributing to our island in PPEs and COVID testing kits. That helped us, and we need to ensure that helping the Guam Memorial Hospital is our priority. We had the CARES Act funding that could have given more revenues to the Guam Memorial Hospital. We could probably employ more temporary nurses that, could augment the nurses up here that are burnt out. But Chris said it right. We need to pay our employees what they're worth. And the frontliners at the hospital have really stepped up first and foremost throughout the pandemic. They probably go home in the beginning. They weren't even going home. They go stay at a hotel so that they don't infect their loved ones. And then they go back to work, and some of them were putting it out of their pocket. So we need to ensure that we give them what they need, both in funding and in resources, as in PPEs, as in testing kits. Whatever they need, we need to ensure that they get it and it's provided to them.
Thank you, Tony and Chris. You now will have 2 minutes each for your closing statements. And we'll start with you, Senator Ada.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris Carillo, for joining me here. Jason, we have challenging times ahead of us. It's going to take real strong leadership to do what is needed to make sure that our government is able to provide for our people and our community. The only way that we can do that is to ensure that we have a strong leader in the legislature. I've proven myself in the past from the 30th to the 33rd Guam legislatures. I've proven myself in the private business community. I've proven myself as a service. I hope and I ask the people of Guam to give me that opportunity to come back and serve the people of Guam in the 36th Guam legislature. If I'm able and successful enough to make it in, I hope I'm working there beside Chris Carillo, who I know that will come out and work together with us so that we can ensure that the future of our island and the future of our people is going to be bright, because we are responsible for ourselves. And the only way that we can ensure that the responsibility for our people and our community is a strong leadership in the legislature. So I humbly ask for your vote in this coming election. I'm Tony Ada. I'm number 7 on the Republican side of the ballot. And I thank all of you for joining us here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, your final comments, 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I want to thank KUAM for the opportunity to have this forum and this platform to discuss our views. I also want to thank Tony for being a good sport and hanging in there with me all afternoon. But the truth is, Tony and I have worked together a lot in the past, and we've done a lot of things with BJ when he had his own office. So kudos to him. I really wish you all the best of luck, sir. Look, my name is Chris Carillo, and I have a real plan. A plan to expand healthcare to the private sector to make sure that we get more of our private sector workers employed. What can that do? That can reduce our taxpayers from having to subsidize the hospital so much every year. I also have a plan to right-size government. And by right-sizing government, what I want to do is make sure that we apply the resources in the correct areas. So if we expand technology, we can move people to areas in the government where they need it and we're lacking resources. And, I'm a guy that's full of integrity, man. What I tell you I'm going to do it. I treat everybody with respect. I've been a musician for 30 years. A lot of you have had me at your homes. A lot of you have been to parties where I've been playing. Trust me, you know me, and I'm a person that's going to do right by all of you. And I hope that if I'm afforded the opportunity of getting one of your votes, I can work with Tony to make sure that the Republican Democrats have people who will actually like each other and aren't just going to go in there and fight, because the fighting is not getting us anywhere. We need to figure out together. And although we might have different ideas on how we're going to get to the best place that Guam can be, if Tony can tell me this is what we should do and this is what we end up doing, then as long as it makes sense for me, I'll coalesce with him. So look for people that know how to cooperate. Don't go for the people that want to tell you that they're the only ones that has an idea. You have to elect me because I'm the only one that's
Thank you, Chris.
Sorry.
Yeah. My
Thanks.
phone froze.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Tony, for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, guys. Good talk, man. Good talk. Glad you guys were able to agree on a lot of things.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right.
There's virtual tuna sandwich, virtual malasadas on if you guys want a balutan on the way out, okay? Because we're ending the show. Whatever's there, just go ahead and take it. Don't worry, there's no flies.
All right. Take care, guys.
Okay, see you guys. Good discussion there. Good.